how do you say great? Like wunderbar, like wonderful. How do you say that in? And Anto says, "Have you been to Ireland, Mehran?" No, I love to be in Ireland. I've heard so much about it, and I can't say enough the wonderful things I've seen in the movies about Irish women. So friendly, so warm, so strict, so traditional. Of course, it's a movie. I'm sure today, pretty much similar to any other European country, I guess, or maybe I'm mistaken. But anyhow, I've heard lots of good things, and also the rolling hills, green hills, and so one can ride horses and just enjoy the nature and the whole openness and all the wonderful things. I don't know if it's still the same or it's just the movies that I remember. Anto says nailed it. And Nick says Kapai, great, very good. Oh, Kapai, like Popeye. Kapai, Kapai. Steven says, Mehran, how long have you lived in Canada? 40 years. I was 24 when I arrived. You see, I went to university in the United States when I was almost 18, not quite. My father sent me to state for my university education. Then when I finished, I went back to Iran, went to military, as we all had to once but it was a special program. So I got my second lieutenant star, 1 star, second lieutenant of the infantry division. Then 9 months later, after revolution took place, we were excited about it at the beginning because of more freedom, more women's right, more things you could say or write in papers, or political freedom and all that. But it all turned out upside down. Just became miserably different directions. And I didn't like the things that I saw. And so I just told my mother, I remember one night, after many things, that if I write a biography, that by itself is a book. And so I told my mom, I said, Mom, if I stay here, I can't keep my mouth shut. If I don't keep my mouth shut, I'll go to jail. and and I can't keep my mouth shut. So I go. I go to Canada. My mom said, "Go, son, go." My father said, "Go." So I did. Actually, I left. We were not allowed to take any money out of the country because it was a revolution time. So I took the only amount was allowed. I had money. My father had money, and I could only take 2,500 or 2,250 or 2,500, and I had two little twin Persian carpets as a backup. And so when I arrived here, I I sold the carpets in a carpet shop. They took their commissions and they gave me the money. After my money was running out, and I did public speaking for University of British Columbia. I was invited to do a piece on Middle Eastern politics and generally in the politics in Iran and the effects of it in the Middle East and relationship to it. I was invited by Dr. Savage from University of British Columbia, a continuation education department. And so they had a panel of archaeologists and writers and so on invited, and this was a one-day course held for public in Robson Square. We're talking about 40 years ago, guys. Remember, I was 24 years old. And these were scholars and professors of university, and here I was, a young kid in the middle of them. And I did my speech about the whole thing, and almost every question, if not all questions, came to me, and I was the one on the podium all the time. All of that, pretty much all the questions. So I got a recommendation letter at the time from Dr. Savage, the head of the continuation education of University of British Columbia at the time, and praised me for my speech and the fact that all questions was directed at me, and he appreciated it. And they actually paid me $50. $50 was lots of money then for a half a day or a day. So then I was invited to other events, such as Rotary Club, Abbotsford Rotary Club invited me as their Speaker of the Year. And I met tons of managers and people from banks and insurance companies and so on, and they gave me job, invited me for participating in their programs, and right on the spot. So I got 3 interviews right there, and I was looking for a job. And I also had my interviews with Air Canada. I was going on the 3rd one, which I landed a job at Bank of BC. There was a bank called Bank of BC, which now later on purchased by HSBC and Hong Kong Bank of British Columbia. And then I was down to my last $10 in my bank. I had an apartment and I had paid the rent and everything, and I was now down to my last $10. But I had just gotten a job, which was when I received my first paycheck in the bank. What a timing. And then, of course, from then on, I found the bank a little bit boring and applied to get a job at a computer company called Burroughs, which was the competition to IBM at the time, and later on bought by Spear Univac, and they became one company, I believe. No, or was it called Unisys? Spear Univac, and they became one. Anyhow, it was later. It's a company out of UK, but then they became one with one of these companies, other computer companies. Anyhow, I resigned at the bank on Friday and was at my new job on Monday. That's how jobs work so good here. And then, of course, to a different company. Then I had my own company. I exported steel through the Japanese from Italy to other countries. And so it was a good experience, and then so on and so forth. So anyhow, I don't want to go back in there, but that was just a job in here. But there is a lot more to my life before I came to here, and experiences here and experiences there. So we all go through experiences in life before we become who we become. So on that note, kapai. And Stephen says, were you in the United States before? Yes. Yes. All the questions are yes. Nick says, if you don't mind me asking, did you find it hard leaving your homeland and parents behind? Not really, because I don't know why. Because we used to travel with my mom all around Europe when my dad was legal advisor to KLM Airlines, and a Dutch airline company, and my dad used to work with their head office in Tehran, and so we used to travel every summer, and when my father could, he would join us in Europe. So I was familiar with other places, and we traveled Germany, UK, Austria, Italy, all over the places. And at one point when I was a little kid, I think we drove from Iran to Europe, and then drove back, and so experiences. And then we flew every year. And then when I went to university, that was, but I was ready for it because I wanted to get educated and I wanted that life experience. And so by the time it was time to immigrate to Canada, it wasn't a cultural shock or anything. I'd been all over. I I had experience of living. So I came here and by myself. It was only me here. And then, so I think that answers the question. Without boring you guys to death. Yeah, at that age, of course, it was, you would feel missing your parents, but you wouldn't because I was young and I wanted to, I don't know, I was focused on all the wonderful things that was here. And so it was all new. And when you're a child, you don't really focus too much on your parents because you think they don't need you. Like now that I am a parent, I know I need my son. Like I need to see him. I need to. But when I was much younger, I didn't think my parents would need to see me. I don't know, maybe because they had three and I had one. I'm so attached to him. I don't know if that's the story or not, but that's how I thought. I thought I was focused on the stuff, like the students, the studies and new ventures, the girls, the things, experiencing all these new things. I was almost not even 18 when I came to the United States. So all my experiences, most my experiences of, was in college and all that, girlfriends and so on, were all in North America. So to me, it was exciting time of my life. I didn't have any time to really miss back home, while I would be missing lots of things like horseback riding and all the things but I was focused on my thing. Then of course I got into Aikido and so on and so forth. The whole life was here, to the point that when I graduate, I actually applied for a job at Tektronix in Beaverton, Oregon. And Tektronix was a highly advanced company at the time. I don't know how they are now. I haven't followed, but they were into integrate circuitry and all that, and computers, so on, I believe. And I was so keen and applied for production management, because it was one of the courses I really liked. Was taught by one of the famous to be tough teachers in Lewis and Clark, and I really liked that course, production management. So I wanted to be that, and I was invited for an interview, and then the second interview, and then I spent a day. 5 people interviewed me after that, and then they gave me the welcome package. So I got hired, and they gave me a day and sent me the welcome package to show up. So I don't know if I called or showed up, and they said, and bring your paper. I said, what papers? They said, immigration pass. I'm not immigrant. I'm a student. You know that. So if you're not immigrant, we can't give you the job. So I said, oh shit. So plans changed. So I said, okay, I graduate, then I'm gonna go home then. Of course, I stopped stopped by in Japan for some special reason, and then on my way back, stopped in Hong Kong, and then back to Iran, and went to military and the rest of it. And of course, in 1979, I then decided that. And since then, Canada is home. I'm proud of it. I love Canada. It's an amazing country. And my father always said, go to a place where the rule of law resides. And so far, I believe I have found that place. Of course, nowhere is perfect, but this is a place I can hang my hat and proudly say, yeah, I am Canadian and I love this country. I love Earth. I love all people who are decent and good. All right. And the next question is, what happened tonight? Is about me. It's just not fair, is it? And Stephen says, that's an amazing story, Mehran. Seems like that speech at the time really helped move things forward. Yeah, it did. Shows how you can only live in the moment and never know what the future will hold. Yeah, it's true. And Stephen says you can write a book on your life, should add it to your books. I should actually. I believe I do. It's time. I'm almost 65 years old. Well, 6 months later, 64 and a half. And once we get rid of this bloody virus thingy, whatever is shut down the whole world, and there is enough time and finances, I like to write that book. There is enough things to say. What I told you guys was just a small part of it. So, but before that, we have a bigger agenda, don't we? We want to get this channel moving. I don't want to see 5 people here. Of course, I appreciate that. Always positive about these things. But I would like to see 5,000 or 50,000 participating in our live talks. We've got things to say, things to share, don't we? So, all right. Now we have here, Auto says, do you have any regrets? No. I have a video on it, though, about the concept of regret. You see, you can't have regret because...
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
No, I didn't talk to you. What was her name? Siri. I didn't talk to you. You're just interrupting me. Be quiet now. All right. What was I saying before this Siri so rudely interrupted me? Haven't you got some manners? All right. Regret. You can't have regret if before you commit to a decision, you have researched and acted responsibly as much as you could at the time, knew the level of your responsibility or knowledge. You see, Dr. Ferris, which was one of my professors in university, one of my the favorite professor of mine in Lewis and Clark at the time, and also happened to be the chairman of the business department and my advisor. I really loved him. He was a great guy, great man. And that's another story on its own. And he, in one of his classes, Behavior in Organization, he was teaching that at the time one makes a decision, one believes that the decision is correct. And it's true. If he didn't think it's correct, it would make it. Unless these are people of intending malice and they're crazy and they're not in positive thinking. But we're not talking about. We're talking about normal, decent people. So at the time when you make a decision, you believe that that decision is correct. Why? Because based on the information available to you, and you're a decent, normal person, sane person, you are making a decision based on the fact that you think that decision is correct. You're not making that decision knowing that that decision is not correct. Right? Just doesn't make sense. So on that basis, according to the information that was available to you, you made a decision. And later on, more information becomes apparent to you. And then now you say, oh, I should have made this decision. No, you say that now based on the new information that became apparent to you, but it wasn't available to you when you actually made that decision. So you can't have a regret because at the time that you made that decision, the information that is now available to you was not available to you. So it's not fair to think that your decision is a regretful one because at the time, that's what you thought is the only logical decision you could make. So no regret. No regret. That was a short of that video of regret. I just cheated myself from one view. I should have gone and watched it rather than telling you that. Anyhow, so